All right, so I would like to thank you all for joining us today on this panel discussion on urban development and creating sustainable, livable, and resilient cities. I have to say just very briefly that the days of back in the day when construction was solely about putting up buildings that meet basic functional needs are now absolutely behind us. Now the focus of the conversation has actually shifted into creating designs that are not just efficient, but also resilient and environmentally sustainable. Now, the property development industry, given where we are today, is naturally a key player in this regard. And its responsibility has extended to be about integrating energy-efficient designs, using sustainable materials, and embracing innovative construction methods to create real estate that is and will remain attractive, sustainable, and profitable. Now, today I have to say we will be learning from and hearing valuable insights from key players that I individually have had conversations with them and can tell you that they are personally passionate about these objectives and are effortlessly and very proactively working towards achieving those objectives. So please allow me to welcome, without further ado, Mr. Maher Al Kaabi, advisor to Al Group Chairman and independent board member, Mr. Anas Mustafa, Senior Vice President of the MEP Design and Execution Department at Damak Properties, Dr. Samiullah Khan, Chief Sustainability Officer at Fakhruddin, Dr. Walid Al-Naimi, Chief Executive Officer at Etihad Energy Services, and Mr. Roberto Colucci, Director, AW Rustomani Group Electric Mobility. So, gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. I would like to start with an overall question, a general question that I propose to all of you, on how you assess the construction and property development industry as a whole today, beyond what you are doing in your individual posts, with regards to achieving sustainability goals. And I will start with Dr. Walid.
Thank you. It's very important to see how the development of the operational of any building from the past until now, it's evolving. The needs of the community for any building is changing. And the effect of that is an additional utility is required for any building. So it's very important to build our buildings to be compatible to the change that is evolving in the market. Using the smart building management systems, I think, is one of the most important things. We all look at the HVAC, which has the highest impact on the utility cost. That's true, but there is a lot of potential and a lot of room for additional improvement. Using the natural resources like the solar panels, the sustainable energy generation has a great impact on sustaining the building and adding value to the asset itself.
But there is room for improvement, you
Definitely,
say.
there's always.
Mr. Anas?
Thank you. So, in fact, in nowadays development...
the mic is not working for him, guys.
Yeah.
Guys at the back.
Do you want to give us a sound check?
Now it's okay?
Yeah? Yeah?
So what I want to say now, currently, development industry as an entire industry became so much mature compared, 10 to 15 years back. Nowadays, as a developers, we are, like applying a lot of sustainability measures, as I would say, as a base build, strategies. So nowadays, nobody's talking like whether we need, to go with LED lights or normal conventional lights because it became an industry standard. And fortunately, so many things have been even regulated by the local authorities. Nowadays, local authorities are much more advanced in their requirements, and they are encouraging us as a developers and everybody, consultants, contractors, to adopt sustainability requirements.
That's good. So I think the importance of policy and putting policies into place is also important.
Exactly.
Yes, Mr. Maher?
Sure. I think let's go a little bit back. One of the challenges we face as well, whenever we talk about constructions, suddenly we miss around how do we actually first overarching things combined with urban planning, and that's the title. If we don't do the urban planning correctly, and I keep on start building my own schools, my own buildings separately, individually, without taking the full city in place, then we're actually not doing the right thing. So that's very, very important point. Here, the regulation comes very important, which UAE does that very well, which we'll talk about it also in a while. The second things, are we building something which are good and livable for people? That's seldomly things which are missed about people in terms of air quality, which you have good examples on what we're doing in the buildings you're building over there. Are we getting away from the syndrome fatigue of the building itself? How do we create recreational areas over there? Because people spend quite a lot of time over there, the dependents and so forth. The third, whenever we're building, are the buildings sustainable? Are we building it in a passive way? Are we using the material which are circular, which I'll also dwell about in a bit? Are we taking care of the energy saving, which is the biggest challenge in any building today you have? Are we looking at the water conservation and how do we make it happen? So if you look at the city models when they're building, there usually are 5 key challenges over there. And I'll just make it brief as well, and I put them in the code called ECB. Sounds like European Central Bank, which is not, by the way. So starting with the E, which is the emission. We all know the emission which is getting emitted from the buildings is about 37%, 35%, anything between that, depending on the reports you read. So that's huge. So if you look at that, that's meaning you have to do quite a lot of things about it when it comes to the second topic, which is circularity. Now, what the projecting is, by 2050, 70% of the people, world population, will be living in cities. You're talking about adding 2.5 billion people. Imagine the pressure you'll have on the buildings. That's huge. And if they are 75% emitting CO2, or greenhouse gas emission, I should say, there's a lot need to be done over there. However, the good news about that, 60% of the building which will exist by 2050 have yet to be built. That means we actually have a good chance reversing on what we have been doing. So that was the E. Go to the C, which is circularity. How many of you understand the concept of the circular economy? Raise of hands. Okay, so very quick definition, not very difficult. Today we're living in a linear economy. We manufacture, we use, and we waste. Done, that's it, that's a linear line. The circular economy, we manufacture something from design perspective that when we use it, we put it back into the economy n number of times. So the material, if it's reused, can be reused n number of times. So you don't have impact on the resources that you need to extract today. That's the circular economy. In the beginning, when we were sitting, I sit also in the UAE Circular Economy Council. So we're trying to also create the right definition, and definitions are challenging as well. So how do we make sure that we're going to have the right circularity and concept in the building itself? Keeping in mind that cities actually use 70% of world energy. That's not small. And by 2050 again, the kind of waste that will be generated from the demolition is about 2.5 billion ton per year. So that's mean if we don't keep the concept of circularity in terms of the design and the material we use, we'll not be able to use this material. So we have to put the circularity into the mind and then take this material and use it to build new homes. And that's very important. The next E is about energy efficiency. How do we build buildings which are energy efficient? From the chiller systems, from the design of the building, the location of the building are very, very important. Coming to the C, which is the climate change impact happening. Now, the report of UN keep on saying, they're saying like by again 2030, 650 million people will have problem in water scarcity, in water scarcity will be there. I don't know why, because the planet's 2/3 of it is water, and desalination plant is not easy to do today. And there are even technology available for the last 10, 20 years of actually taking moisture from air and coming with water. In one of the buildings I was at in my previous organization, 10 years ago, we used to take the humidity from air in every single floor. We have those machines, and they are drinkable water. Last but not the least, which was the B, the biodiversity. How do we build buildings today where we take care of the diversity, not from only protecting it, but restoring it and enhancing it? And if you look at Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, he already announced the plan, saying the Dubai area itself, 60% will be nature-based. So it'll be recreational area. So if you keep this in mind, then you can see whether we are going circular or not in our approaches, and that's the assessment. Today, the whole world is about 7% when it comes to circularity. So that's a good percentage from where we are, but still we have a long way to go if we don't change our practices.
Absolutely. Mr. Roberto?
Yeah, I believe that actually Mr. Maher just launched a very good assist, I would say, because if we look at, in fact, emissions, today transport accounts for 15 to 20% of the total emissions of CO2 globally. And of course, when we look at sustainability in buildings and when we look at the overall emission and circularity, today we need to build an ecosystem of charging stations in order to, of course, facilitate this transition to a more sustainable transportation. So the first thing would be when urban developers and urban planners put together these new plans, having the user in mind, having this, let's say, new citizen that lives in these cities, that normally wants to charge their electric vehicles at home, because that's exactly the beauty of driving an EV today. You don't need to go to a very bad-smelling place, such as a petrol station, but you can just charge your car at home while you're doing anything else. You're going to the gym in your building, you're watching a movie with your family, and your car is charging in the meantime. So EVs are reducing this dependency from, having to, let's say, go to a place which we don't really need, such as a petrol station, and charge our car while we're doing something else. Now, if we look also at what's happening in general in the e-mobility space, if we look at experiences such as what's happening in Europe, for example, and we go back to circularity and usage of products, today, there's a generation which is not really looking at the ownership of the vehicles anymore, but rather the usership. So building these fleet, let's say fleet communities or communities of fleet of electric vehicles, whereby I only use my car when I really need to use my car. Sure. And then another user would do the same. And then again, urban planners will have to put together this network of charging stations, because this is today the biggest blocker that we have in the UAE towards the adoption of electric vehicles. So building charging stations or let's say a network of charging stations in the buildings and giving the user the possibility to charge at home, as well as having DC charging stations, so fast chargers in these areas. Because in the future, actually, what's happening is that these 2.5 billion people that will live in the cities, they want to do everything in the radius of 15 minutes. Yes. So we want to go to cinema, we want to go to opera, we want to go to the gym, to a restaurant, to the beach, whatever, in the radius of 15 minutes. And again, EVs are giving us this possibility. We don't need to build these charging stations or a fueling station outside of the city or along the highways or along the roads. We can build this infrastructure at our places, and we can also offer services, such, for example, having software updates at home. So while I'm doing anywhere else, where I'm having lunch with my family, then a service technician will come from AW Rustamani and will fix my car at home. Again, today EVs are shaping a complete change in mobility, and I believe this is also in line with what is happening in the building developments. Yeah.
Absolutely. This takes us back to the earlier stages of design and overall urban planning generally. Dr. Samiullah, I'd love to hear you from you.
Hind, it is very difficult to add over what all the experts have already told. And Mr. Waleed covered about HVAC and the different energy efficiency measures. Dr. Maher spoke about circularity and how the population is growing and the impact which is there. So I don't have anything much to add, but to just tell you how we perceive it at Fakhruddin Properties and Fakhruddin Holding.
And your assessment.
Yes.
No, he has great knowledge, by the way. He's trying to be modest.
Yes.
So what we thought was the technology is available. So there is enough technology available to take us to net zero by 2050, which is the vision of UAE. So we are very sure about that. And if we can do it in a real estate sector, yes, which is not easy, and Fakhruddin Properties is involved in high-rise buildings, and it's very difficult to achieve net zero in a high-rise building. And we have today the technologies to achieve that. So we said, how are we going to implement this? And when we talk about sustainability, we say that the basic of sustainability is the 3 Ps: the people, the planet, and the profit or prosperity. So it has to meet all these criteria. And the first and most important is the people. Because technology is great, but if your culture is not of sustainability, then any strategy which you do, any technology which you do will not work. So we said, first thing we have to focus on our people. So what we did is at Fakhruddin Properties, we called everybody together and we said that this is what is happening to Mother Earth. You know, we call Earth Mother Earth because today science says in a handful of soil, there is more living than all the people put together on the face of Earth. So there is so much life in a handful of soil. And that's why traditionally we call it Mother Earth. And we saw what our forefathers and ancestors used to do. They were circular. They were sustainable.
That's true.
It's only that we got carried away and started a different lifestyle, might be aping some of the new civilizations and adopting their methods in our life without seeing what is going to be in the impact of the nature. So when we looked at sustainability, we saw how architecture was done in UAE 200 years before and 100 years before. What was happening in India? How were they keeping a place like Rajasthan cool? So they were using biopic design. They were using nature-based solutions.
True.
So we said that should be the starting point in our constructions, in our design. Let us take nature-based solutions and then blend it and leverage technology, the best technology available in the world. So we collaborated with companies which work with NASA, with MIT, with IITs in India. So we worked with the education institutions, brought in the new technologies in terms of what is happening in the world, the best practices, coupled it with nature-based solutions, and proposed this to our people. As a matter of fact, one of the things which I'd like to record is in most organizations, sustainability department is a small department which is going and following up with all the other departments on data and what needs to be done. In Fakhruddin Properties, the biggest department is the sustainability department. We all wear two hats. I'm a COO, but I'm also a CSO. My finance manager handles my waste. My HR manager handles well-being. So each person in the organization wear two hats because if we don't do that, then we can't deliver sustainable projects. We need the buy-in of the people. So people, which are most important. Second is the planet. So whatever we do, we make sure that we are retaining the planet and leaving it as a better place for future generations. And we've got the buy-in from the people. And we are ultimately a company which is working with stakeholders. So we need to take care of our profits. But when we take care of the people and the planet, the profit happens.
Welcome.
And Alhamdulillah, we are in a wonderful place like UAE. Last year, 2023 was year of sustainability. This year again is a year of sustainability. So we know that it is important. And I'm very happy to be the Chief Sustainability Officer of Fakhruddin Holding, where we are innovating things on a daily basis, and we love to share what we are doing with all our associates and peers in the organization.
And I'm definitely going to circle back to that because I know that there are a few very interesting projects that I would love for you to speak about. I want to come back to you, Dr. Walid, and I want to ask you, and also Mr. Anas, I mean, the technology is there, but I'm sure there are challenges as to why we're not all applying everything to achieve the targets. What are the key challenges faced when trying to optimize building performance, when trying to include efficiency and sustainability within the projects?
It always comes back to the financial burden to start with. When we talk about build-up area, you need to run a retrofit for your building. Always the financial burden is a challenge. Although that you will achieve this saving throughout the long period of payback. But if the property owner or the stakeholder hasn't planned for this, or it's going to be a challenge to secure this capital to run this retrofit, it always comes back to a challenge. The technologies are there. I love the enthusiastic of Mr. Samih. You're right, the technology is there, but if we don't work together to implement it, if we look at 5 years ago, probably the technology will not let us achieve net zero by 2050, but now it's there. Who knows, 5 years ahead, maybe we achieve that target beforehand. At Ittihad ISCO, we look at a comprehensive solution for any developer or any building owner, where we facilitate the finance for the project, and we facilitate the repayment throughout the saving all over the contract period to make it easy for the burden of the huge capital with easy repayment installments, and to make it even easier, being as a subsidiary of DIWA, we even do the repayment through Livable itself. So it's very transparent, you know how much you saved, and you're building worth a lot more whenever you complete that project.
I think absolutely making sure that the buildings and the units, down to the unit, remain profitable for investors and don't bother the occupants as well is something that is important. So you speak about cost primarily. Mr. Anas, from your perspective.
Talking about challenges might be, one of the, I would say, most important topics into this discussion, because at the moment we manage, to mitigate or eliminate these challenges, then for sure, sustainability market will go to a different level of implementation. As I can see, there are several, challenges, but I'm going to mention a few of them. So I agree with Dr. Walid, starting first with, the financial side, which is, the high, initial high investment and cost and upfront cost, especially when we're talking about mega projects. Like I see, like our projects in Damak, we are talking about 30,000 of villas. We are talking, like more than 40 high-rise towers we are putting this year. Some of them are G+70, G+80. So when you talk about a community that includes, thousands of villas and a building or a tower that includes hundreds of units, then cost is a major item. The other thing also related to cost is uncertainty about return of investment. This is one of the crucial points, because I would say the ROI is affected by several factors. Some of them is location of the project. There is, like variability between the projects. So you cannot, assure that you're going to get the same results. Based on climatic conditions, I would say rules and regulations. Moreover, the ROI is also affected by the customer behavior and the quality of the maintenance. All of these factors, keep, the ROI uncertain, and that's why it becomes like one of the challenges. Some of the investors will say, I'm not sure about what I'm going to get back out of that. A third thing is, second thing is, lack of, I would say, awareness and expertise. Yeah, for example, still some of the developers, they believe that sustainability starts on operation side of the life cycle of the building. So for example, they say, in order to save some energy, let's switch off some lights in the corridors, make it dark. Let's switch off some lights in the car parks. Let us, for example, in a good weather, let us switch off the fresh air handling unit. This is totally wrong, misconception. Sustainability starts from design. Everything in development starts from design. If you select the building, if you specify a durable material, okay, if you specify like high-performing envelope for the buildings, if you implement a lot of things from design, that will move forward. Now there are a lot of also other challenges. One of them is the continuous advancement of sustainability technologies, and that keeps property developer unable to every time upgrade the buildings toward what's coming in new. I think fifth thing is about if we talk about retrofitting existing buildings. This is one of the biggest challenges, because again, if we're gonna do some certain changes in an existing building, this means it will be a surgery. So, and there will be a discomfort to the customers or occupants. So these are, I would say, the main concerns that I would say obstruct sustainability.
The second one is a good problem, but a problem nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
Mr.
wanted
Maher.
to add just one thing to what they have said.
Absolutely.
I usually, because of interaction with people we do, I put them in two buckets. One is the non-technical and the technical. So what Dr. Walid has mentioned and Brother Anas has mentioned is the technical part of it, which is a huge challenge, to be honest, honestly. But the biggest challenge we face, we offer energy-saving products for buildings, for chiller system and all these things. So we're not going to compete with you, but we're going to collaborate on these things. It's the resistance to change. Acceptance resistance to change. I'll give you an example on when we go and speak to people. We've got a product where we say, look, not only it is going to save you energy, but we'll provide you warranty of minimum percentage of your energy bill will go down and how much CO2 reduction will happen.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, we'll give you money back. It's a warranty, back to back. And we also prove to them in this harsh weather, environment, we have done this solutions in buildings where they're actually enjoying anything between 23 to 25% reduction on their electricity bill in this environment and various seasons. And we have enough implementation of the solution across the globe. Despite that, and when you see this ROI, you should say, fantastic, let me jump on it, at least let me try one building.
Yeah.
They don't jump in immediately because the resistance in their mind, which is coming from the word awareness, I'll borrow it from you, is not there yet. And they're not really taking the first step. If we're able to do enough awareness, and when I say awareness, it's starting from home. And we're exactly doing the same thing at our company. We do not have a sustainability department. We said we will not have a person of sustainability. Every one of us will be sustainability officers, so we don't have that. We started a journey like that. So the Abdullah bin Talk, the Minister of Economy, was asking, because when we sit in the council, he tells us, share with us what you do with the sustainability. I said, look, sustainability for us is a mindset. If we don't start sustainability from home, and we don't change it from home, we will never bring it back to office. How many of you are actually teaching your children about sustainability? Raise up your hand. And we're in a sustainability forum, which is WETEX. That tells you, we need to start from home, first of all, before we come and talk about it at work.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest challenge I foresee today, that education, education, education.
Absolutely. Dr. Samiullah, I want to know, since we've been talking about a few challenges, let's talk about some solutions, some strategies that can be implemented, to reduce operational costs and maybe encourage building owners and developers to jump on board, increase lifespan of structure because we don't want to be in a wasteful economy, and enhance property values in a sustainable way.
Okay. So how we look at it at Fakhruddin is, we don't look this as a problem or an issue. We look at this as an opportunity. So we say, okay, this is the challenge which is there. How can we solve it? And we say, who are the best minds who can help us solve it? If it is available in the US, we go to the US. If it's available in India, we go to India. If it's available in China, we go to China. Then we also closely collaborate with the education institutions, because the education institutions in UAE and abroad, they have the knowledge, they have the resources, and they have the time. In the industry, we don't have time. Because if I come to Damac and say that, okay, this is something which we want to introduce, you need the building to be up and running in 40 or 30 months or 24 months. So you don't have the time. You can't use the manpower which you have in your organization to do research work. So what we have done is we've collaborated with the local institutions in UAE and institutions abroad to generate solutions. And we've been doing this for a long time. So we have become experts at how to collaborate with education institutions. And from the education institutions, we've brought in solutions. And I'll give you a solution which is very simple, which is very relevant to all of us. Now, UAE is known to be among the top or the best in most of the parameters in terms of lifestyle and well-being. But recently there was a report saying that the air quality in UAE is the 8th worst in the world. I don't agree to it because I do measurement of air quality, but that was the report. And the indoor air quality, as per experts, can be 5 to 7 times worse than the ambient air quality. Now, the indoor air quality affects your health, well-being, cognitive ability, and your productivity. So sometimes when you're in meetings like this and if you feel sleepy, it could be that the facility management is switching off the FAHU and circulating the chilled air inside. And you're not getting enough fresh air, which is making you to be drowsy. And we'll make sure in this panel that doesn't happen.
Because it's circulating.
So the air quality was a major challenge. And we said, how can we address the challenge of air quality? So we collaborated with an organization which supplies air purification systems for NASA in the spacecraft. And with Masdar and with the education institutions in UAE and in India, and we developed in-house a air purification system which works in UAE, developed in UAE under our conditions. So we didn't bring something from US or Europe and just fit it here in UAE. We worked with the institutions here, collaborated with them, we created a prototype and installed in our building. By this one small move, we have improved the indoor air quality, eliminated the sick building syndrome, reduced the heat island effect, converted buildings into carbon sinks, and saved 30% of the electricity bill.
Wow.
We have been using this system for the last 3 years in our properties, and now that it is a proven concept, we have shared this information to all the stakeholders, and now we are incorporating this in other buildings which are there in UAE. And seeing our success, people from US, people from Europe, from India, now want to adopt that homegrown UAE technology. So we have become leaders in air quality. And as we speak, with the Ministry of Health, we are doing now air quality assessment and measurement in 10,000 homes. So that is the kind of activity which we have done in air quality. Mr. Maher spoke about air to water.
Yeah.
About 6-7 years back, we produced 5,000 liters of high quality drinking water in the deserts of Dubai using solar. And we eliminated plastic bottle from our organization, moved into this lovely bottles which is branded, and we have water dispensers all over our organization, which is part of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan's Dubai Can program. So you're doing good to the people, you're aligned with the national objective, and it is actually saving us money. Earlier with plastic bottles, it was costing us about 33 frills per liter, but now with hydrogenated, mineralized, alkaline drinking water, which is extremely good for us, it is costing us less than 25 frills per liter. So the technology is there, the resources are there, and if all of us collaborate, then it can be even more viable. I just want to remind all of you that about 20 years back, grid power in UAE and solar power used to be more expensive. Today, with Etihad ESCO and all, Rostamani has its own ESCO, with all these companies coming and with the support of bank, today solar energy is almost half of grid power in Dubai.
Yeah.
So what is required is the collaboration, and both government, institutions, education, corporates, experts, if we can all sit together and if we can work together, then I'm very confident, like what Dr. Walid said, that UAE will be able to achieve net zero substantially before 2050. And UAE and Dubai is known for achieving targets.
Inshallah.
Absolutely.
Ahead of time.
Ahead of time, 100%. Mr. Roberto, I know that Dr. Samiullah is talking about how people spend a lot of time at home, and it's important to enhance their breathing experience inside the house. People spend a lot of time in cars too, and I think we can all agree. How can technologies in EVs, like the batteries, energy management, help in the bigger picture build a more sustainable future for the cities?
So, well, if we look at the air quality by itself, there are specific filters in Zeekr cars, for example, that in fact have the objective to close the circle. Because today, driving an EV doesn't only mean, driving a car which is different, but ultimately the goal is to create more sustainable cities and to make, our lives better. So there are air filters which will, of course, facilitate this, basically filtering these microparticles of, polluting substances in our environment. Now, if we look at the technology broadly, what happens with EVs and what's happening in the industry is that we want to incorporate, and we are incorporating cars into our lives. Meaning that the car is changing, and it's not only a means of transport anymore. But electric vehicles can also be used as batteries. So there's new technologies which are already available, actually, and most of EVs, and of course in our Zeekr vehicles, which is the vehicle to grid or the vehicle to vehicle. Meaning that in the future, I'll be able to connect my car to a power source, and the car will decide whether to take energy and therefore recharge the battery, or in case my home is consuming more energy than the power that I have available, then the car will be used as the source of energy. And this will also, of course, optimize the costs in terms of what I spend every day to refuel my car. So it's estimated that as of today, driving an EV with the same performance as an ICE and driving, of course, for the same mileage, I would save around 8 to 10,000 dirhams in a year. So again, as the panelists were saying, today there's a lot of things happening. The industry is evolving, but what we're lacking a little bit is, of course, creating this awareness of what I can do when I decide to drive an EV, how much can I save, and how easy it can be for me to create and to be part of this ecosystem, whereby I can charge at home, I can charge at my office, I can charge at any location, and I can live a better life and make, let's say, UAE and the globe a better place.
Hopefully. Mr. Maher, I'd like to ask about strategies that can be employed to minimize waste generation throughout a building's life cycle.
It starts always from design. I know we jump into existing buildings and what we need to do about them, that's fine. But I think for anything we need to do, whether it's building or anything, it has to go from design perspective. If we get the design right, and keeping in mind what we talked about earlier, circular economy, i.e. in terms of the material we use, how do we make sure this material actually be used a number of times, the economy, then we have a long way to go from that perspective. The construction of the building, the placement of the building, when it comes to the urban planning, using the low nature which is available today in terms of the energy we have from the solar panels that we can use, the light which is coming in. If you look at some of the offices that we were in before, particularly the commercial ones, we actually abolished something called rooms, because we wanted to make sure natural sun can come in inside, the natural light comes in inside, so you don't require to write up your energy. So that happens from the design perspective. How do you make sure when you read the HVAC or the chiller system, they are efficient in terms of the usage of it as well, which are the biggest chunk when it comes to in terms of the energy sources that you consume. The second is water. How do we make sure that the water that we use actually can be reused? Whether it's rainwater, I know we don't get much rain, although if you were here 20, 30 years ago, it used to rain till mid-80s, cats and dog. People don't believe that. That was the reality of UAE economy. However, this we're going to reverse back and come back again, and rain, we will be habitual to see more rain as well. So how do we capture rainwater? How do we capture grey water and get it reused again back into the buildings, whether it's for irrigation or something else? So if we keep these main things, of course there are many other things that we keep in mind, but if we keep these main things, then we'll be able to go right way into strategizing or building the right, say, buildings, communities, and the planning of the cities.
I actually wanted to also touch on, Dr. Walid, the policies or incentives, because you touched on that are needed to promote the adoption of innovative construction techniques, sustainable material, to promote the transition to more sustainable cities.
In the United Arab Emirates and Dubai especially, we are blessed with our leaderships, and guidance and support. As Mr. Samihullah said, 23 is a sustainable year, 24 is a sustainable year. Dubai Supreme Council of Energy and the Dubai Demand Side Management Strategy, they all push towards regulations and policies to incentivize the buildings, their building materials that is accredited or approved to be used. That all goes towards the sustainability and setting up the regulations. When we look at it, the untapped incentives that building owners or stakeholders have to be aware of is the asset value that increased by implementing all those sustainable and energy efficient systems. I was talking with Mr. Roberto about installing EV chargers. If your building have already the infrastructure for installing EV chargers for the car, of course it's worth more than a building that doesn't. Talking about design, Mr. Maher is saying, it would save you a lot of cost throughout the coming years. If your design is not compatible with the new technology that can be installed, then you have to incur a lot of costs to redesign or in order to be able to implement those technologies. For retrofitting, I always like to give an example. It's like running on a diet. When we do the energy audit, we diagnose the building and what is the factors that can be changed or implemented in order to make the building more healthy. So, but there are untapped solutions that the developer or the building owner doesn't want to implement because it doesn't contribute much on the saving. So HVAC system will give me 30% reduction in utility. Okay, let's just stick to that solution. But if you add the smart building technology, the water recycling, maybe it would give you 2 or 3%, but actually it will make your building worth a lot more value
on the long run. I think a lot of it is focusing on the short-term planning and the short-term, and this does come back to the thinking and the approach to the entire industry. Before we wrap up, I do want to give you all the time. If you were to share with us one project that is personally exciting you within the realm of sustainability, so we can get excited about the future as well. I'll start with you, Dr. Samiullah.
This is possibly the most difficult question you have asked. Because I can give you a list,
but choose one.
But to tell one is going to be difficult, but there is something which I'm very proud of. Food waste used to be a big challenge. And like what Mr. Maher said, that the waste which we produce in UAE per capita is the highest in the world. We are 3 to 4 times more than anywhere else in the world. So it was a major challenge for us. And we got incentivized, I won't say incentivized, but encouraged by municipality, because in 2023, suddenly they doubled the cost of waste collection. Okay? So we said, now this is a huge waste, and we are spending a lot of money on the waste collection.
Yeah.
And we can't pass on that to our residents. So per square feet, the maintenance cost would go up and it will create a challenge. So again, what we did is we went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, what did our ancestors do? How did they manage their waste? How did they handle the food waste and the organic waste and inorganic waste? And after doing a thorough study, we have implemented a system where today we are able to eliminate 90% of our waste going to the landfill. This, I think, is an achievement. And the beauty of this is, not only have we achieved a 90% reduction on waste to the landfill, we have used the existing infrastructure. So we didn't have to create infrastructure. It was within the existing infrastructure, just being a little more innovative, little more experimenting to incorporate waste segregation at site with our FM team and with the support of the owners, because they saw what they were doing. We have been able to reduce 90% waste going to the landfill, and the initial waste with the plastic waste and the paper, the metal and the e-waste, now we have started generating a revenue from that. So what was going to the landfill now has become revenue source, and we are incentivizing our residents and giving them points, saying that if you do waste segregation at source, then you get so many points which you can redeem against services, coffee and shopping. And we also have created a leaderboard with gamification for this. What I'm trying to tell here is that the opportunity is there, the solutions are there. It is the willingness of people to go and work on the solution and getting all the stakeholders on the same page. If this can be done, if I can reduce 90%, so can all the others do it. And if everybody does that, just imagine the kind of impact which we would have at the community level and the city level.
Absolutely.
So that would be one of the most important achievements which we have done. But I'll just add something which I'd like all of you to take it as a takeaway. When you talk about sustainability, people think that you're going to reduce the quality of life. So in order to remove this conception, we have come up with sustainable luxury. So when we are telling that you can be sustainable and you can live a luxurious life, then we have changed the concept that sustainability means there is going to be some kind of compromise on your lifestyle. So add sustainability with luxury, make it a word which everybody takes it that it's going to be good. And if you visit our stall, we will show you how we are achieving sustainable luxury.
Thank you so much. That's a great trick, and I think it will stick with a lot of people. Mr. Roberto?
See, when I joined the AW Rostamani, I received a very clear mandate from our chairman. And today our mission is to create value rather than generate profit, as Mr. Khan was saying. So the indication from the company was, today we have to focus on building an ecosystem. So the most exciting project that I'm working on is, in fact, partnering up with companies and corporates and institutions in order to build this ecosystem. It will take a very long time because, again, it starts from educating people about living a more sustainable, though luxurious lifestyle. And that's why we decided to have Zeekr as a brand, as a premium electric vehicle, in order to tap into that possibility of creating value and showing people that, in fact, we can drive an EV with very good performances, not having to, let's say, give away some of the features that we used to get into our cars. So this project is, in fact, work on creating this ecosystem, which means changing the mindset of users, helping customers understanding that today is possible to drive an EV in the UAE. It's easy to charge, and therefore putting together partnerships and developing internally a network of charging stations in buildings, in properties, and outside, and giving people the possibility to experience e-mobility and change the way in which we use our cars daily.
That's lovely. Mr. Maher?
Great. I'll share the journey we are at, but before that, I personally believe any change needs to happen, regulation is the key. In UAE, in regulation, always there is a carrot and a stick approach. In UAE, we always start with the carrots approach, but don't misuse it. So please go back to your business heads, to your boards, start collaborating quickly before the stick comes. So if you all remember, when we started saying about plastic and so forth, we did enough awareness about plastic and the damage of the plastics, and then we started putting some small tariff to it. So, and that's what prelude to what we're trying to work next on. We have a booth as well. You can look at what we do with the food management, waste management from all the 12,000 food establishments that we have today in UAE, and how do we take the entire waste of Dubai, of the food establishment industry, and we put it into completely circular economy. But the journey, exciting journey we are at, it's from the inspiration that the world is witnessing two trends. Digital economy, which is something also we have as a mandate from the Ministry of Economy, that the UAE need to turn to digital economy and support that. It was launched in 2022. And circular economy. And for circular economy to prosper, we have to use the digital economy. We have to use a lot of digital ways to make sure the innovation will help and drive the circular economy. So one of the things we're trying to do is about digital twins. I'm not sure if you've heard about a digital twin, but a very quick explanation. The entire Dubai, by the way, in digital twin, the Dubai airport's in digital twin. So how do we plan building any factories, any buildings virtually first? So we are in the process of building many factories locally, regionally as well for the businesses we are at. So when we build them in virtual world, what happens, you're able to make sure it is the most efficient design before you build it physically. So once you build it on the virtual world, you bring it and build it in physically. But once you're on the physical land, then you'll be able to do something called predictive maintenances and proactively. So you'll be able to save about 25% of your cost overall, and that too, CO2 emission also gets reduced over there. So we're actually exploring and working on this journey for all the factories we're working on, emanating from belief that technology will be a driving force for any changes need to happen in the future.
That's amazing, Mr. Anas.
Well, we are working currently on a lot of exciting projects nowadays related to sustainability. One of them is we are in discussions with some companies, like rather than only just to, I would say, segregate various types of waste, we are focusing on bio-waste, and we are bringing machines to transform this bio-waste into fertilizers. As you know, in Damak, we have a lot of master communities, and we have a lot of green areas, golf courses, and that can be used there. Still, it's under implementation, not concluded, but my colleagues in facilities management are working on that. On the other hand, internationally, we are working on a lot of opportunities in Europe and France for data centers, in France, in Helsinki, where we are planning now to, in one of the projects, to get water from the river and use it for cooling of our racks.
Oh.
So this is something which is very advanced. In Helsinki is different. We are adopting a different option. Rather than to cool the heat that is coming out of the servers, we are taking this heat and distributing for district heating in Helsinki.
Amazing.
So this is what we are doing.
That's very exciting, Dr. Walid.
Well, to start, all our projects are exciting, especially when we provide a comprehensive solution where we can tick all the boxes.
I want one.
And nothing makes me more proud than looking at the project and overachieving the guaranteed saving that we promise. One major announcement we had this morning, we celebrated the signing of a project with Dubai Airports and Emirates Airlines. We worked with them starting 2019 on a combination of retrofit and solar and building management system. And because of the result of overachieving the guaranteed saving that promised, this morning we signed an additional contract. We are installing solar of over 60 megawatts for both Dubai Airport, Dubai World Central, and Emirates Airlines Engineering Center. It will be the biggest installment in the world for any airport in the world. And that is a huge thing that I'm
very
proud and excited for it to see light and be completed by hopefully mid-2026.
Your face lit up while talking about it, so it's very exciting.
And I know we're over time, but I see our digital head for the group is sitting over here. So I missed mentioning as well that we're working on an AI model for the predictive modeling. How do we access waste faster in a very short term that we work, and I'm doing my doctorate only in AI and sustainability as well, just to make sure that we can get it done so we can go back to the ministry and showcase that program.
I think there's a lot more to be discussed in this, but unfortunately we're out of time. I would like to thank you all for being here and for your valuable insights. And our audience, thank you so much for joining us today.